I have been wanting to film this video all month and I have come up with a variety of ways to do it, but I think instead of showing you every single concealer that I own in my collection, what would be more beneficial is if I showed you the concealers that I actually use. So I have in my lap all the concealers that I use on a regular basis, and they each have their own unique purpose. There is no one do-it-all concealer. I wish there was. I think for most people you can keep it down to 2, but for those of us that just love beauty products, you can never really have enough. So if you want to see all the different products I use to make me look like this, then keep watching. So the 2 areas that need concealing, at least on my face, are under eyes and then blemishes and other imperfections all over the rest of my face. So I'll start with the under eyes first. None of these products, by the way, should be new to you if you've watched more than a handful of my videos, but I love the Garnier Nutritioniste Roller Ball. It's the anti-dark circle one. There are generic versions of this. I just happen to keep using this one. I don't think one is any better than the other. I do get the tinted one, obviously. We're talking about concealing. What's great about this is it's very cooling, and if you have puffy eyes, I imagine that would feel even better in the morning. It goes on with this rollerball tip. Kind of looks like an old deodorant. Do they still make roll-on deodorants? Oh, who knows? And it goes on very smoothly and a very thin application amount. Now, a lot of people have recommended that you let this sit for a little bit if you want more opaque coverage, up to 30 seconds, and I just pat it in with my finger. No brush, nothing special needed, just the tools God gave you. So that's how that goes. For some people, that might be enough. Now, I wish that were the case for me, but I need a little extra help. So what I usually layer on top of that is the Rimmel Match Perfection Concealer. I've used other things in the past. I can't recommend anything more than this one. This, to me, hands down, works the best. I think it's because it has a combination of concealing and highlighting properties, so it's a little more light reflective, and it really brightens up the under eye area. And for those of you who haven't seen this, it has a little, it's a wand, brush applicator. And again, I'm gonna put that right on top. And it is lighter. You tend, for the under eyes, want to pick a concealer that's a tone lighter than your skin. And again, I just tap it in. And for me, that's enough. I do want to add that on the Rimmel packaging, it lists if you're what shade foundation you are, it gives you the suggestions of which concealer to use. So that's very handy. Now, let's move on to imperfections. I use a variety of things again. 99% of the time, all I need is the Urban Decay 24/7 Concealer Pencil. My shade is NSA, and it's a stick. This is not sharpened, so it looks like that, and it's very creamy, and there's no drag. It just slips right onto the skin. It goes on a much more pigmented than the under eye concealers. I think it's much too heavy to wear under your eyes, but if it works for you, great. Again, I use my fingers to blend it in. I usually don't rub like this. I usually just tap it in. I feel like the warmth from my fingers just blends that right into the skin, and you're good to go. It dries to a nice matte finish, and it holds up almost the entire day. I mean, unless you're rubbing on your face, it's gonna hold up all day long. I have heard people talk about concealers that are more heavy, full coverage than others, and at this point I just want to ask, who wouldn't want a full coverage concealer? Isn't the point of using a concealer to hide what's underneath? You don't want to see through it. That's just a little rant. I've never understood. I was at Sephora recently. I asked a sales associate there what they thought of the Makeup Forever camouflage or whatever they call their concealer, and she said, well, it's really full coverage. Yes. That is why I want a concealer, to cover. Just saying. Okay. Anyway, usually 99% of the time I'm good with these 3 products, and honestly I could probably skip the Garnier and use these 2. But there are some unique situations, some of which are not very pretty to talk about, but I'm gonna just dive in there. Sometimes we have areas on our face that need concealing that are, let's say, 3-dimensional. whether it's because something erupted on its own or you couldn't control yourself and when I say you, I mean me, picked at it and it's scabby or just not flat, let's say. Your traditional stick concealer or even a wand concealer, which I'll get to in a minute, made out of liquid, isn't gonna stick to all the areas that need concealing. And for this, I found bareMinerals concealer, a loose mineral powder. I use bisque. Some people use it under their eyes. I can at times use it, but what I tend to do is I just dip a little in here, and then I like to use the Sigma P80 brush. It's a flat, tiny little flat kabuki brush. I swirl it in there, and then I just, let's see, I'm gonna cover up this little dot, which isn't gonna work because that's a freckle, but you get the idea. And you just massage that into the area, tap it if you need to. Okay, you can't conceal freckles with this, but you can conceal zits. And I even used one today. I have a little something on my chin that I couldn't, just a tiny little teeny thing that I just kind of had to flick off, and a little scab left, and traditional concealers just aren't going to stick to it, but the mineral powder I think worked like a charm. So I use that, the mineral powder concealer for those kind of things. If there's something that I want set extra well, I will use the regular concealer and then I'll go over the top of it with this. I won't use this if I'm setting another concealer though. I'll use a fluffier brush to set. Sometimes I've used this under my eyes. I don't feel like, I think I need one shade lighter than this if I was going to use it under my eyes. It's a great little extra step if you need something that's really stubborn about being covered. And then the last area is the highlighting concealing. It's really more highlighting, but they're marketed as the highlighting concealer pens. This does have some highlighting capabilities, but more concealer. I find that what I use is the Maybelline DreamLumi concealer. My writing is all worn off, and I use this in two places. I'll put this right in the corners here sometimes if I just need an added extra brightening effect. This is even more brightening than the Rimmel. And I'll also use it as just a highlighting pen, not to conceal at all. And I'll put it here on the tops of my cheekbones and in the middle of my forehead, kind of in between my nose, eyes, in between my nose. How many noses do I have? In between my eyes. The one thing I do use to conceal it is an old trick I learned a long time ago and kind of forgot about it and was reminded of it again watching a recent Lisa Eldridge video, and that is to put it on your wrinkles. I know it seems strange, but wrinkles are really just valleys in your skin and they're shadows. So you want to bring out the light so that they appear more raised and not deep crevices. So I tend to put it here and here to kind of help take attention away from the shadowing that's coming on here. And then I mentioned earlier in another video, the hormonal changes in our bodies tend to darken up some areas of our skin. So on top of concealing, or in lieu of just traditional concealing, I will put a little here on either side of my chin and on either side of my nose. And to blend that in, I'll use one of two things, usually fingers, they're just handy. And then if I'm really prepared and thinking about it, my beauty blender works wonders on tapping in creamier concealer. The last thing I forgot to mention, I kind of held it up and showed you, once in a while, none of these work exactly the way you want. And for that, I always go back to my standard traditional liquid wand applicator concealer. This one is the Maybelline Superstay 24, which I really like. Their caps always crack on me though, which I don't like. And it's a very simple, basic wand stick thing. You dab it on to where you need it. It's easily blendable. You can use your finger, you can blend it in with a brush, what have you. This can be used under the eyes, it can be used on blemishes. It's just one of those in-between things that works in some situations that other concealers might not work, or something needs a little help. I will say one last tip when you're concealing, especially when using a liquidy concealer. If you find that it's not covering as well as you'd like, dab it on the area you're trying to conceal, wait about 30 seconds, and then gently tap it in. Usually you'll get better coverage that way. Anyway, those are the products that I use on a daily basis. Not every single day, all of them, but I will say every single day I definitely use these three: the Garnier Nutritioniste Rollerball, the Urban Decay Concealer Pencil, and the Rimmel Match Perfection Concealer Highlighter. So hopefully that was helpful. Of course, if you have some products that you think I'm overlooking, please let me know. I'm always eager to look into what's new, although I think I found my kind of little holy grail trinity here. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.